Yo, what's good? What's good, everyone? Good morning. Good morning. Grand Rising. Hey, morning, brother. Morning, brother. All right, guys. All right. Cool, guys. So, hey, morning. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of a top down on DXY again because today's kind of a critical closing day. So let's dive into DXY, okay? So when I'm looking at my range, right, I'm looking from this low to that high, and within my range, I'm going to be searching. One second. So within my range, I will be searching for insufficiencies, levels of support for price if I remain bullish. If this is a point in which I want to see price action turn around and drop, I'll be looking for some lower price action and discount, right? So we got to ask ourselves, what are we looking for? Looking for higher prices, or are we looking for lower prices? And you guys can clearly see that given that we still have another 23 days in this bearish down candle, or currently printing down candle, okay, you guys can tell that we have came into a previous area of accumulation. So this is where the range is going to be important. Okay, so first you have that imbalance, then you have this volume gap here on the left. Within this whole range, I look left to get right, so I'm looking at that range right there. Okay, and then we also got this gap right here. A little bit harder to see, but it's there. Boom. Okay, and then we have these highs as well, and then the low, this imbalance. That's everything in the premium price action. And I guess you still have this breaker right here, okay, that we've yet to tap into, to be honest. We have yet to tap into the breaker. This one right here, this guy. Okay, so given all that, and let's see up here, previous highs, imbalance. Yeah, breaker. I'm gonna mark out the breaker just in case we do go back down there, but it seems very unlikely. I'm more in the longs. Okay, when we were here yesterday, I was looking for price action to come down into this insufficiency here. Personally, I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think we're just going to keep going on this push higher out of this monthly imbalance. I do see us just continuing going long, personally. So this is why today's going to be a pretty important day for me, because of the daily. Okay, in terms of the weekly, my weekly objective is getting dismissed right now, and I may be switching it depending on how we end up moving for today. I may be switching it to the upside, so initial bias may be off, but I may be switching it to the upside here. Okay, now the theory was, or is, and it remains this way: when you're looking at price action at the beginning of the week, you always got to ask yourself, in which direction is price action printing? Okay, and why do we do that? Because I wanted to see why we were seeking lower price action. I want to see what level we were going out for, because these type of movements don't happen for just any reason. So I wanted to see why we had this type of movement. So as we print downwards, you guys can see that there's one level of liquidity that we do take, regardless whether it's the one that we anticipated or not. The downside liquidity before we moved higher was there, and it's this very next candle. Okay, so we did take out some downside liquidity. I was expecting more bearishness, but here's the critical part in which I want price action to, I guess, clarify for me. This is a previous area of distribution, and an imbalance to the downside. We are bearish on the daily, bullish on the monthly, bearish on the weekly. So my question to you guys is, shorts or longs out of this area? Continuation on the longs, or you guys would like to see shorts? I want to hear some thoughts. I don't want to hear anybody marrying their bias or some very strong opinionated people. Just your thoughts. What was the when you guys looked at the higher time frame this morning and you're looking at it right now, what is the first thought that comes into mind? Longs or shorts? Okay, Alexa says longs. Shorts for the week. Okay, interesting. Just current price action. What is current price action screaming to you? What is what you guys are seeing on the charts screaming out to you? So I will show you guys something that may or may not prove today to be correct, but to me it's what it seems to be. Okay, so when price action is running through a low or a high, do you guys remember the criteria that had to be met for us to run through a low or high and confirm continuation or confirm price action to turn around? What was the characteristic of the candles or of price action for it to confirm a continuation to the downside? And some people know the exact name. You guys can say the exact name for it as well. What is something, if we're looking for a continuation, what is a key PD array that we're looking for? What is a key level that we're looking for? If we're looking at for a continuation, what is the key, something key that we need to see running through those highs? Running through the lows or running through the liquidity? Let me mention it this way. What is a key level? Let me say it this way. What is this right here? Look, price action goes higher, and what creates what through that high? Some of you know the specific name for this, but what do we create through that high? You guys can drop the specific name. Yep, FVG imbalance. Yeah, there's a specific name for it as well. This is called the breakaway gap. Okay, this is called the breakaway gap. Manipulation imbalance. So the manipulation imbalance would be, in this case, it would be this one, the one that pushed down to sweep liquidity. So this is how you are able to tell. This is the difference between manipulation imbalance, okay, and breakaway gap. And it comes down to terminology and understanding your terminology. Okay, one sweeps liquidity, the other one runs for liquidity. Do you guys hear the difference? A sweep of liquidity is created in a manipulation imbalance. A run on liquidity is created with a breakaway imbalance. Okay, a sweep of liquidity is when we tap into a level of liquidity and turn around the opposing direction, right? It creates a displacement in price. So that is a manipulation imbalance. The imbalance that is created to sweep liquidity. The imbalance that is created to run for liquidity is called a breakaway gap. Okay, so a breakaway gap is one that is used to run for liquidity. And when we run for liquidity, it's to hit liquidity and continue. Okay, and ideally, the characteristics of a breakaway gap, you would ideally want it to remain open. Okay, you don't want to see these breakaway gaps. See this one's a perfect one right here. This imbalance, that's a breakaway gap. You don't want to see breakaway gaps getting traded too, right? So this is a breakaway gap. You see how that imbalance is breaking through these lows? Okay, that's a breakaway gap. And if you want to see a continuation, you ideally don't want to see these getting filled again. Okay, so here's an example in where the breakaway gap actually got filled and continued. It does happen. That's what I'm telling you guys. It's like, it's not a set in stone thing, but it is a high quality characteristic of a breakaway gap. You ideally don't want the breakaway gap to get traded into or filled all the way, like the one that we're seeing printing now. Right? These right here, these are breakaway gaps. Right? There's manipulation gaps and there's breakaway gaps. Right? This is a manipulation gap that came into that previous area, but this is a breakaway gap. Right? Breakaway gaps, you want them to remain for the most part open. Okay? To confirm that it is going to be a continuation. See, because when there isn't a breakaway, we usually tend to make retracements. Okay? So, anyways, that's kind of what I'm looking at for DXY. I'm not saying that we're just gonna turn around and all this stuff, but the monthly fair value gap and this breakaway gap getting filled almost entirely is a pretty good indication that we're probably gonna continue pushing higher. Okay, so I'm gonna wait to see what happens in here in this monthly volume gap from the left. Okay, I'm gonna wait to see what happens there. Maybe that gives you a little bit of resistance to push down again. But overall, I want to see price action continue to respect this. In other words, what would this imbalance be called? Right? An imbalance that broke through the high. Breakaway gap, right? And it's almost filled all the way, which again, I don't like to see a breakaway gap getting filled all the way, but it barely topped 50%. Cool. Okay, and ideally you just don't want to see these breakaway gaps getting filled. So that's why I'm bullish. That's why I'm more than likely, by the end of the day, I'm going to switch my bias to the upside. And if I was to go long, guys, I'd be looking at out of all of these highs, I'd be looking at this one. Okay. Yeah. Just like our brother said, bodies tell the story, wicks do the damage. So that would be my upside. So 106,840 again. Give me 1 second. Let me go back to the XY. First objective was 104.420, right? And that was a short. And now my second objective may look like 106. It really depends on today. I shouldn't journal this already, but just for study purposes, we're gonna journal it. Long, and let's see here. Yeah. Okay, so in terms of a daily, I mean, a couple major daily levels did get tapped into, honestly. I want to see what happens in this volume gap. It does look like we're just going to continue going higher. There is a lot of liquidity, like in a way, being built up here. But I want to see what happens in this volume gap. I don't want to say that we're just going to continue pushing higher, given that this whole day we've already just been one-sided. But I'm very, very curious to see what happens within this imbalance, because we could, if we get some distribution here, then, you know, the original bias still remains down there, which is 104,700. We're going to put 104 instead of 104,420. We're going to call it 104,700 instead, because I want to see if we get back down to that breaker on the short. Yeah, 104,700. Because look at this, the way that we just been just so dandy walking itself up. Yeah. So in terms of price action, we did print upwards yesterday. So I'm almost wondering if we're going to continue pushing towards the upside. My daily objective would have been this blue shaded area that we're in right now. So given that, I'm going to switch to like an intraday objective. When my daily objective, or what would have been my daily objective, has already again tapped into, I move to the lower time frames and I look for an intraday objective to tackle for the time being. Okay, and again, I want to see what happens in this blue shaded area. So my area that I'm going to be looking at is this previous daily low right here. That's the next level that gets my attention within that blue shaded area. And I want to see what happens after we tap those areas. So I'm also going to leave an alert there. Okay. Indices yesterday, looking at longs, previous weekly highs about to get tapped. I believe that was our previous monthly high. That's the monthly objective here. So I'm going to leave that for the monthly. There remains my monthly objective, but really I want to see what happens when we get to that weekly objective. The daily objective hit yesterday across the board, but oh no, it hasn't yet. There we are. Okay. I have seen some, it was NASDAQ that hit it really early. And I wanted to see some longs yesterday, and we got them in the afternoon session. And this happens all the time. It's very common for, if the morning session is a bunch of back and forth, this is the best characteristic for it. Remember, when we were looking at longs yesterday, we were looking at longs out of this 4-hour insufficiency. Okay, so we filled that insufficiency for the majority of the part. Okay, we filled it up all the way, and then bodies, right? You guys can see the bodies just really respecting that overall. We come down there. What time is it? At 1 p.m. Eastern. Okay, and then we reaccumulate. Now, guys, I'm not going to sit here and cap. I did take this long right here. I did take this long, and it stopped me out. So I took this long right here out of this imbalance, because it was a 4-hour imbalance and this imbalance. But notice something beautiful that price did. Now, I may not have re-entered, but this is what price action did. And if I was looking for re-entering on the longs, this is the way that I would have took it. But I wasn't home, unfortunately, so I took my trade and then I had to leave. But here it is. So that bullish imbalance here, lined up pretty nicely with that manipulation imbalance, right? The one that came into this previous area of support. Then the one that pulled away was this one right here. I don't know what the fuck happened to that. Okay, 1 second. Okay, and then you have that imbalance there. And so my stop loss was below the low of the imbalance. But notice what price action did. Remember what I tell you guys about large imbalances. Okay, when you are trading within a large imbalance, that large imbalance is your range. Okay, and this is your premium and discount. Premium 50% and above, discount 50% and below. When you're looking at your range, what are we always looking for? Internal liquidity. For the price action to run for liquidity and for it to take liquidity, sweep liquidity before making that run on liquidity. So what do we have here? We have a push and closure above the 4-hour imbalance. Okay. Then we have price action come below 50%, takes out the liquidity 50% and below. Right? You guys can see these lows right here. And then, of course, this low right at 50% was beautiful. I'm going to mark that one out. Okay. And you guys can see we take out internal liquidity within this 4-hour range and then just pull away from each insufficiency. Now, again, the ideal, this is ideal. What is this called? This imbalance? I know I didn't run through this high, but it broke away from this whole structure. So look, it's the breakaway gap, right? It's breaking away, and you want these to remain open. Okay? This would have been the more ideal breakaway gap, but that right here, you guys can see this slight imbalance gets filled right away. But as we run through the highs, or as we pull away from the displacement, that imbalance that gets created, pulling away from price action, that one is called your breakaway gap. And you don't, this is exactly how you want to see it, is untapped. Okay, so now let's go to the open here, because we were pushing higher. We accumulated between at the low. Dow Jones took out previous daily low. NASDAQ did not take out previous daily low. S&P did not take out previous daily low. Guys, I'm still bullish on indices. Okay, I know NASDAQ is just already up there, and I believe we're going to get a nice little pullback. But overall, I guess the move already played out in terms of the long. But that was a nice bullish divergence. Dow taking out previous daily low. Didn't quite get to our internal liquidity level, but look where it did come down to. Okay, look where it did come down to, is this imbalance here. Okay, and it did get back into that area and pull away. Now we are trading above Asian highs. Okay, Asian highs is right there. We just took out Asian highs. Maybe we have and come take out this internal liquidity range anyways. So I'm going to leave that level there just in case. But overall, guys, this is bullish in a bullish divergence state. And so this is diverging with NASDAQ. So honestly, it just kind of makes sense for us to continue pushing higher. Unless NASDAQ's push higher was the divergent play, and that's that. Yeah, I'm pretty long still. I do believe in the longs still being probable for this week. Maybe we'll get some shorts later on in the week, but same as yesterday. Ideally, though, I'd want these lows to get clapped first before we look at any lows. But let's look here. I'm going to put this out. And on the 1 hour. Okay. So what is price action doing here? You guys can see that we've traded into a gap right there and imbalance. We've also traded into the breaker, and the breaker is this one right here. Right, the one that swept the lows right here, took out previous high right there, set the low, traded back into that. Not just that, but we traded into 50% and below. I do like that area, and I love the way that we're respecting this imbalance. As I mentioned, I mean, I'm pretty long on indices still, and these upside objectives look very relative. I know that you know, ideally we'd want Asian highs to be intact, but you have to understand that not always going to be the case. Okay, so now let's add on a little bit more confirmation into this. Okay, so now you have this accumulation phase here. Okay, and honestly, the whole day yesterday was an accumulation phase. You have this whole accumulation phase here. Okay, then you have the manipulation. And so now we're starting a distribution phase. Okay, and so I want to see longs out of this accumulation or manipulation phase here. Okay, I'm gonna see some longs shape out of this leg, the one that's trying to push higher here. There's some unmitigated areas down here. Maybe the candle, the order block that really swept this whole thing down here in case we do come for some internal liquidity. But yeah, this would be the breaker as well, right? This big candle right there. That's still your breaker. 50% and below that range, you got these lows, right? At the mean threshold. Not taking any trades till about 10, closer to 10. Just keeping these levels in mind. And I'm going to switch over to indices, to the other indices now. S&P, again, some really smooth highs, right? Like a lot of upside liquidity. And give me 1 second before I do this again. I forget to turn on my MetaTrader. And Q taking out the highs. So that's also something to note. Nasdaq did take out the previous daily high, I think, and all the other ones have definitely failed too. And you can look at that as bearish divergence. So looking at our DXY long, we'll see what happens here. This is why this is a critical area for me, and I'm gonna wait for this area right here to either get traded through or see the response from that area to anticipate what we may come down to do here. Because that bullish divergence could have been a divergence to only get us to this bearish divergence, right? So that's why we wait closer to 10 p.m. I mean 10 a.m. JD says, what is that box that DXY is approaching right now? It is the monthly gap. The monthly volume gap right here on the left. This one. So this is the one that we mitigated to yesterday or last week, really. And that's the one that we're hitting towards today. And for some reason, they're not showing on the weekly. So There it is. Weekly. Down the weekly, we're showing too much. There you go. Right? And so this breakaway gap, yeah, to me, it's going to get filled. But yeah, this is still a critical area in price action where I'd like to see what happens. But ideally, you know, if we are going to continue being bullish, this right here, I want to see a closure above this gap. Okay, cool. Again, Nasdaq took out previous daily high. Dow fell to. S&P fell to. Dow took out previous daily low, and the other two fell to. So, quite a bit of divergence right now. Maybe we come for the lows first. I want to see where EU is at. Because, yeah, our short from yesterday ended up melting way lower than I anticipated. Yeah. This is a short we shared yesterday. Really nice. Okay. So we're trading into this breaker. We're just chilling in that area right now. Nothing really that I'd personally take. I like this on Nasdaq, this short. So now let's look at 9 a.m. Okay, let's look at 9 a.m. open. Where's 9 a.m.? 9 a.m. open right there. Okay, there's the opening price for 9 a.m. So we got an accumulation, manipulation, and this is the start of the distribution. So if I was to see some distribution taking place in this phase right here, I'd see a continuation on the distribution, because you got to look at it this way. We're looking at either one or two things. Accumulation. And this is the manipulation. Or that up there being the manipulation. Right? So if we get some distribution here, that up here was the whole manipulation to get us to the downside. If not, then this was the manipulation to get us higher. Dow accumulating out of that breaker. Let's look at 9 a.m. I love AMD. Like, I love open accumulation, manipulation. Boom. 9:30 open. 9 a.m. open right there. The hourly open. Okay. You guys can see accumulation. Okay, and this could be the manipulation right here to distribution. Or this is the accumulation. This is the manipulation. We're going to distribute. But to me, it looks more likely that we're going to continue going higher. DXY is doing a little something there. It failed to create a new high. It has failed to create a new high here on the 15-minute. It's a pretty good bearish sign after taking out some liquidity to the upside. I like that a lot. Maybe this will take us back down this way to this previous area of accumulation. Same thing happened on EU, so there's really no divergence here. So on DXY, it was a previous high, and then on EU is a previous low. So not much of a divergence there. What I ideally like to see in these key levels is some divergence. This looks like the accumulation to just continue pushing higher. Same with Dow. Open, accumulation, manipulation to distribution. Right, we are accumulating. You guys can see that we're going long below the open. Nasdaq as well. If we were to go long, it's going to go long above the below the open. If it's going to go short, it's going to be below the open. Got another 15 minutes before the 10 a.m. Maybe we're starting to get some distro here. I'd love to see a distribution schematic here on the 1 minute. Dow creating some upside imbalances. S&P. Let's see with S&P. S&P looks really nice to continue pushing higher. No insufficiencies, not a whole lot at least for S&P. We are, although, respecting the majority of this one right here. No buttons for me yet. I haven't pushed anything. Just looking at price action, moving back and forth. Let's look at the midnight opening price. At 10 a.m., I'm wondering if Nasdaq will return to this imbalance. EU at a balanced range, right? At a mitigation, we'll see what happens at that level. There's a lot of liquidity to the upside, lots and lots. Yeah, S&P longs playing out really nicely. I still got another 9 minutes before I push the button, but so far so good, you know? Let's see where the 9 a.m. open here. 9 a.m. was this one right here. The midnight opening price is somewhere over here. So kind of difficult to mark out the midnight opening. The true open of the day, as some may call it, some ICT students may call it. And look at that. I'm gonna make a little template for it, and it's only gonna be visible on the 1 hour. Yeah, 1 hour or lower. And this is gonna be 0 0 0 0 and open. A lot smaller, and it's gonna be my little template. Yeah, came down to the midnight open, 9 a.m. open. You got the accumulation, manipulation to distribution, targeting this high. But anybody that took the longs, shout out to you guys. Shout out to you guys. This itty bitty tiny imbalance here on Dow gets my attention. Itty bitty right there. Can you explain divergence? I always confuse myself with it. Sure. Let us roll out the 10 a.m. first, and then we'll look at divergence. You're in Dow longs. Yeah, I wanted to get in all of this, but I don't want it to dip before I get a chance to get in there. DXY just pumping. Not with the greatest strength on DXY. Not with the biggest strength, which is cool. I want to see what happens here. This is a strong area of resistance anyways. Well, the longs are longing. We did mention longs. Here are the longs. S&P. Yeah, S&P little tiny imbalance there. Every time you just see a big ass candle to the upside, you're like, fuck, man. Like whenever you like your bias is so on point and everything, and then price action doesn't come back to your areas, and you just see a big ass like candle in your favor, but you're not in it. I think that hurts more than when you're in a trade and you see a big ass candle against you. Like I don't mind that as much as I mind not being in a trade and just seeing a big ass candle printing in your favor. Especially like, has that ever happened to you guys? Like on the 4-hour, it's like you knew that there was gonna be a big ass candle printing, and then the 4-hour ends up being like a huge bullish candle, and you were anticipating the longs, dude. Pain. But yeah, Reggie, I'll break down divergence for you guys. It's actually quite simple. I think once you really understand liquidity, divergence becomes really easy. Liquidity and insufficiencies. Once both of those concepts stick, like, dude, this becomes super easy. And that's probably like the two things that everyone should always focus on and should learn to understand even deeper than you have now is liquidity and insufficiencies. All right, guys, so check it out. I'm gonna start putting these out here because this is the 9 a.m. open. We're gonna put 09. And then we're gonna save this as 9 a.m. Okay. So that's the 9 a.m. open. So again, accumulation below the open, right? You guys can see it here. These are the phases of the mark of AMD. You got accumulation right there. So it's just some straight up back and forth movement, right? So we know as our accumulation. Then you have your manipulation, and then you have your distribution, which should take out your manipulation phase. I want you guys to break down the charts like this every time. Whenever you're on indices and you're even on any other asset, honestly. Right? Whenever you guys are doing anything, break down the charts this way. Promise you it helps a lot. We are trading into this previous area of distribution, right? Maybe we'll distribute out of it, but I'm still long. I want to see more longs. But if there was to be shorts, this would be the area. Nasdaq's fucking going towards our weekly objective, which is good, right? Like we wanted to see that. So yeah, go Nas. Sheesh. There we go. Beautiful, right? It happens all the time. And you guys can see that NASDAQ did come back to this breaker right here. And it may not be visible, but it did in fact come back to this breaker, which was this right here. And this happens all the time. So as soon as 9 a.m. opens, start looking. If you're bullish, you should look for a key level for price action to accumulate from. Right? So you got the opening. You see where price action's accumulating, right? It's accumulating opinions. It went long right off the bat, accumulating opinions. It went short right away, accumulating short opinions. And then it ended up reversing. It ended up taking out both early buyers and sellers, right? So Dow went long. Jerome's long is playing out nicely. It is now 10 a.m. We got S&P with this beautiful. Yeah, so there you go, guys. That's the whole like schematic. That's really what you like. You don't need anything beyond this. Like, you don't need. Trust. You don't need anything beyond this. Like, this is all you need to know. Keep it super short, simple, and like your plays could be this short and simple. Right? We got a new 4-hour candle and it's printing upwards. So what I'm anticipating, if I was already in these longs, again, most of my play would be done because this is a whole phase. Can you check EU? Yeah. Mark the 8th EU imbalance. I'll look at it. I haven't looked at the messages. My bad. I would rather wish I was in a trade than to be in a trade and wish I wasn't. The way I felt that was on a different level. It's so funny. And then this goes into this whole thing, right? Because yesterday was an accumulation phase, right? Yesterday was the whole accumulation, right? And then you had the manipulation. Right? And now we're distributing into that area. And it's the whole thing that I just taught you guys. Everything that I just taught you guys, that's what we're doing. And now we're heading towards the manipulation area. Same exact thing that I just showed you guys here on the lower time frames. Here it is on the bigger time frames. Same exact thing. Accumulation, manipulation, distribution. Okay, and I know distro means shorts, but distribution means it stands for differently. This is an accumulation of orders, whether it's bullish or bearish. This is a manipulation, right, to sweep out any early buyers or sellers, right? And then you get the distribution. And the distribution of orders, meaning that they are distributing all the orders that were accumulated and manipulated or stopped, right? And then they distribute the orders. We'll get deeper into the power of 3 in the next few months. It's something I've always thought about and looked at, but I never really thought about it in this in-depth of a level. But it's all timing. What's really cool is that, on what's the one thing that's always constant no matter what? What's the one thing in trading that's constant? Yo, Jerome, look at that, bro. Look at the way that we came into this imbalance, bro. I mean, you took a really nice trade, bro. That's all I gotta say. This 5-minute imbalance within this breaker, 5-minute breaker, right? So you got 5-minute or 15-minute breaker right there. And then within that breaker, you guys can see this 5-minute imbalance here. and we come 50% below the breaker and just pull away. And here you have your 9 a.m. right? 9 a.m. open, and then you probably have your midnight open somewhere over here, but I don't think the midnight really did much on this one. Okay, and I'm sorry for saying your name wrong. Jalicia? I'm not going to say it. I don't want to mess it up. But yes, timing. Timing. That's the one thing that's constant in price action. Always. Timing. No matter what, price may not be constant, but timing will always be constant. And so become a master of your time. Right? Jalicia? Okay, cool. It's an awesome name. He said, yes, sir. 5-minute imbalance. There's 2-minute FVGs in there. Inverted FVGs. Beautiful. And yeah, brother, I'll check you right now. I was just wanting to touch on that subject because today was really clean. 9 a.m. open, right? We got this accumulation. Look at that. It accumulated, then manipulated towards that imbalance and distributed the orders. On all the other ones, on all the other assets, we took out those lows. We took out that initial low on Dow, on S&P. After the 9 a.m. open, we took out that initial low. On Dow, we didn't. And then on NASDAQ, we did. That's called bullish divergence, right? So for the individual that was asking me what divergence was, the easiest way that you can identify divergence is, I am really liking how price action is looking. We'll come back to everything that we did, but we'll look at divergence real quick. The easiest way for anybody to start introducing their eyes to divergence is the daily time frame, because no matter what, you can see it very clear as day on the daily time frame. I'm gonna pull up all three of them just real quick for study purposes. Okay, for study purposes, you got NASDAQ on the left, Dow Jones and Dow Jones in the middle, and S&P on the right hand side. Okay, and I'm gonna zoom into these areas because really we don't need to see anything else. And a lot of people want to see their bias based off this whole fucking thing, and sometimes you really don't need to zoom out that much. Okay, the closer you are, the less you see, and the less information you see, sometimes on a higher time frame it can be better, but that's just me. Okay, so this is the easiest way to identify divergence. You got NASDAQ previous daily low and this imbalance intact. Dow Jones previous daily low imbalance got tapped into. S&P previous daily low didn't get tapped into. Okay, so that right there, because all of these should be in correlation, in essence, should be in correlation. Okay, and I'm using like air quotes when I say that. When I say should be in correlation, this is what I mean, because they for the most part they are in correlation. But look at the cursor. The cursor, the day on both, right, needs to be exactly the same. Like I can't just look at a previous daily low over here and Dow look at some random previous daily low. It has to be the exact time. So if I'm looking at the low of the 6th, right, Monday the 6th, then I got to look at the low of Monday the 6th on Dow, low of Monday the 6th on S&P. The timing needs to remain constant, right? Just like Jalicia said, the timing aspect has to be constant. Okay, that's the only thing that's constant in price action, and that's what you need to become a master of. It's the consistency throughout price action, which is only time. Okay, so let's go to EU. Okay, before I get sidetracked and I don't. Oh, I looked at the wrong one. But I have I don't remember what the E thing was, to be honest. What the futures version of it was. 6E1. That's what it was. I don't know why I had such a hard time remember that. So now let's look at EU. Okay, so fucking EU. Sorry, excuse my language. I didn't mean that. I just wanted EU to do something different. Okay, so EU traded into this monthly previous area of distribution. Okay, we've rejected quite hard. I mean, I've wanted this imbalance to be the rejection point, but we have rejected from previous weekly high being taken out. I'm gonna delete this real quick because that's not on the weekly. Okay, and honestly, I want to see that imbalance instead. Right there. Oh, we did tap into that imbalance. Okay, so now we see. Now, see, things need to clear up. This is why we need to always mark out original imbalances. This is why it's always been one of my rules. Always mark out the original insufficiencies. Okay. The closure, the open there, that one's a fat gap. I'm gonna leave that open because I want to see what happens throughout this range here that we're trading into. Okay, we have another gap here. Okay, train your eyes to see these gaps, right? This is a bearish closure. The closure's down here. The opening of this next one, because it's a bearish candle, the opening of it should be pretty lined up with the other closure, but it's not. It's way different, way off. So you need to train your eyes to see these things. And it's all gone. 1 second. EU is doing what I call, well, I guess this isn't a really good example of it, but what I was just about to mention is an immediate rebalance. So this one right here, for example, we traded down, and notice how we traded right back into that previous area, or that previous bullish day, or the previous low, that previous day. That's called an immediate rebalance. And I thought we were going to do that, but no, this is an imbalance within it. This is if we look like we were going to create an imbalance, but we immediately, this very next candle immediately rebalances it, which we didn't. So we are trading into the high of that candle, showing some rejection towards the upside. Maybe we get this accumulation on EU. Really, this range remains bearish on the 15 minute. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens after we trade into this area right here. DXY is just melting through. That's exactly what we wanted to see. Cool. We didn't make it to the daily objective. That's cool. That's fine. But we are melting away from that monthly volume imbalance. Okay? Remember, it's that imbalance right here on the left. And we have closed below it enough on the daily where it has now become a level of resistance. So for price on indices, what would really complement us now, it would be some longs. Okay? The 4-hour just opened. Remember, this is the 4-hour opening price. At least for the futures market. I mean, we just traded right into this previous... What is this called? This candle right here. What is it called? Someone drop it in the chat. What is that candle called? Yeah, Fabio, perfect. Yep, it's a breaker. and give me just 1 second. I'm just gonna save this as my new OB color, because I don't like the other color, so this is gonna be my new OB color. And I'm gonna take this off all of them. But yeah, this is a breaker, right? Created a high, came down to the low, swept liquidity, and then created a new higher high, right? Broke structure and swept previous low. So this is a breaker. We traded into that breaker and imbalance, and then continue pushing higher. Got another 44 minutes into this. Yeah, I want to see if EU will take out this high and continue melting towards the downside. That's what I'd like to see. Come up there and continue pushing lower. Dow is kind of melting down. It's pretty nice. Remember, this is the start of a new 4-hour candle. So, if you see a little bit back and forth, it's the accumulation. Remember, they're accumulating orders. Some balances there. We may come to the 9 a.m. open. I like the longs on S&P. This imbalance would be more ideal in my eyes. Oh, look, JD. We looked at the same thing. Inside this breaker. Our current imbalance. I would love if we came 50% into that imbalance. It does look like we're doing it. Look at these relative lows here. Does look like we may do it still. S&P may do it from this imbalance. The ideal one would have been a little bit lower. Nasdaq pulling away from that breaker very nicely. Let's narrow down that breaker a little bit. Because that breaker also has an imbalance right there as well. Wow. NASDAQ. NASDAQ. Beautiful. Beautiful overlap for longs. The longs are nice, guys. Longs are looking pretty nice. I want to see if S&P gives me that pullback. I take it something like this. No, I haven't taken any trades, Alexis. Yeah. The only trade that I took, Alexis, was actually yesterday, and it clapped me out, and it was that Nas long. That one. That I was kind of breaking it down at the beginning of the call. That it took me out. It came back for all this 50% and below liquidity, all this internal liquidity, and then it went. But I did take a long precision right here out of this insufficiency. And yeah, I mean, it didn't stick, unfortunately, but it would have definitely paid out. Here's that breaker as well for reference. Taps price, and then if target gets hit first, though, and we don't get this pullback into this area, then that's it for me. That's it for me. But the reason I want to see this low is because it's the initial low of the hour. Of the 4 hour. Let's see if we come back to it. Yeah, that PM session yesterday was clean, for sure. Yeah, when price action reacts this way during the morning, I don't spend money on it. I just would rather wait for the afternoon session. I don't spend money on that. Yeah, that's the accumulation phase. This is the manipulation phase, and we're into the distribution phase. Yeah, there's just following imbalances, honestly, guys. Following current imbalances and stuff. So it's probably just gonna keep going. Not gonna come into my area, which breaks my fucking heart. But it is what it is. Most of these areas are just playing out, continuing off the imbalances. So I'm gonna call it a day right there for me. I did not take anything, unfortunately. The our biases have been on point. The biases have been super on point. They really have. Definitely going to be looking into it, into more smaller time frame plays. I would have preferred a lot lower price action to take these longs, but this one, Dow made the most sense. S&P makes a lot of sense. If S&P does come back though before we tap the high, I would love to take it here. Before we create that, hit those double tops. Dow just continuing. Because earlier today we were looking at S&P imbalances down here, never came back, so this just kind of makes sense. Nasdaq's running. Isidro said or asked, do you still think or expect EU to go for the liquidity sweep you mentioned? Yeah. 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 Yeah, I do. I expect shorts on the XY to potentially Asian lows and for us to continue shorting on the XY. And on EU, I expect this high to get taken out and for us to play within this blue shaded area. We may go higher from here. It's definitely a possibility. I would love if we went long here, to be honest. But it just looks very improbable. So, and that's mainly because of the dollar. But we'll see. I want to see these pullbacks, see what we get. A bearish closure would be the best thing right now. Here in like 30 minutes, getting a bearish closure down here would be the best, an ideal thing. Right, but we, again, for the millionth time came into this unmitigated area. So there's NAS. NAS hit my weekly objective. We'll see if it hits my monthly. Okay, but my weekly objective on NAS got tapped, which I'm going to journal right now. Give me just 1 second. Which was 15,336.75. So I'm just journaling that right there. That's an extreme high right there. I mean, we're extremely high now. Yeah, the objectives hit super nicely. Yo, Jerome, are you still in these, bruh? Still in these longs, broski? You know, let's go. Just wanted to make sure. Yeah, those are some nasty longs into those equal highs. Super clean. Good stuff, guys. GG's. GG's, everyone. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And honestly, yeah, it's been an amazing week so far. Only one trade for me so far this week. Haven't pushed any more buttons. Probably won't push anything unless, yeah, we get a really nice retracement by tomorrow or sometime this week. But so far, it looks super long. And the longs are doing their thing. Initial bias of the day was super on point. We called out longs. Here we are. Targets. I know JD, my guy. I know, but GG's, bro. I mean, either way, GG's. GG's, bro. JD, you gotta come for this. To Utah. We have like Utah is huge on disc golf, bro. And I know that you're playing quite a bit, so hit me up, bro. We're huge on disc golf over here. We have so many courses. I have a course of disc golf like within the 2-mile radius in any direction that I'm in. On my way. Let's go, bro. All right, guys. You guys have an amazing rest of your day. Incredible morning so far. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for the questions. For those of you who did ask questions, it was awesome questions. That divergence one, again, we'll dive deeper into the divergence every single day. But for now, do what I showed you earlier. Go to all three of them and start looking at daily liquidity, daily insufficiencies, weekly highs or lows. Like the higher time frame is probably the best teacher when it comes to applying any concept, whether it's order blocks, whether it's imbalances, whether it's liquidity. You will see it, whether it's divergence, you will see it a million times more clear on the higher time frames. Whether it comes to like the power of three, what I was just showing you guys, the open, the accumulation, manipulation, distribution, right? Power of three, all those things, apply them, guys, but start applying them on the higher time frame. Right now we did it really advanced concept side of it, which is the the 1 minute and looking at the hourly within the 1 minute time frame. And we'll dive deeper into these concepts as we go, but just walk yourself down time frame to time frame as you apply all of these things, and I promise you, it just becomes super clear and easy. I honestly slept on the long, man. But it was beautiful either way. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Hermano, gracias a ti, brother, por tu tiempo. Bendiciones. And guys, yeah, blessings, man. Blessings. Have an amazing rest of your day. GG's.